Good morning. Yesterday we talked about two of my favorite words, at least the concepts, what's contained within understanding, what the process of searching for understanding was. Of course, that was silence and clarity. And I talked about giving a voice to words. And the sounds of words, these sounds are critical. And a sound that I've always liked to say is like umbrella. Or when you when you're thinking of something, feels really nice, umbrella, umbrage. And another one I like is murmur. Murmur. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Gentle murmuring. Murmur is an indistinct whisper. And it's both elements of this, the indistinct, hard to pinpoint exactly what somebody's saying when they're murmuring. It's, in a way, them talking to themselves. At least not clear vocalization, intentionally or otherwise. And this concept of gentle. So murmuring is, my imagination is kind of like the spring, which is the source of everything. The spring from which the fresh, clear waters come. As they come out of the ground, there's a murmuring sound. As they accumulate, it's through this process of murmuring, that your shoe or that fresh water is bubbling up. And I remember mentioning with Dr. Wayne Dyer, someone that I have nothing but admiration for, when he said that awakening or enlightenment is a quiet acceptance of what is. And that's about as good as it gets. But for me, it was, instead of quiet, indeed it was quiet, but there was a stronger sensation that came with it for me, and that was the gentleness. Quiet by its nature doesn't have to be gentle. In fact, the process towards quietness, stillness, and silence, in my case, was oftentimes quite rigorous, anything but gentle, because I was still caught up in the idea that this process should be work. It takes effort. Gentleness, on the other hand, is spontaneous. It takes no effort to be gentle. In fact, effort would be counterproductive when aimed at gentleness. Gentleness springs from within, much as my murmuring spring brings fresh water gently to the surface. And when you put these two things together, murmur, which by its very nature is not distinct, is not clear, yet the process of this water bubbling up, this murmuring, produces crystal clear water. And crystal clear water is the best that I can come up with for capturing clarity. The concept of clarity, what it means to accomplish and maintain a state of clarity. And it wasn't until I became gentle with my whole being, when gentleness came to epitomize what I am, a gentle man. This was accomplished through relaxation that was couched in surrender, surrendering efforts, surrendering discipline, forgiving myself and those around me, forgiving and forgetting. It's only through the process of forgiving that it's possible to forget trespasses done by others upon you, as well as your participation of trespassing on others, invading their boundaries. And I mentioned that this sharp thought to tongue indeed invaded boundaries, and most time was unwelcome, even though I felt it was my mandate to share my insights, knowing that they wouldn't immediately be appreciated, but in the hopes that sooner or later it would begin to sink in and do the work I believed it could do. Well, of course, this happened a few times, but most likely, most oftenly, it resulted in resentment. I've had people repeat my words to me years later, and finally asking me directly what was my intentions. So I could see that these words had lasting effect, and probably little import in the sense of how they were intended to help. They were remembered basically as slights, as criticism, and most often treated as unfound criticism, never understanding my intentions. My intentions were well-founded. My intentions were supposed to be helpful and productive, but very seldom. So this process of being gentle with myself wouldn't be possible if I hadn't embraced gentleness for others. It's better to just listen, just to be simply with them, to truly listen. And smile. And limit your verbal output. No, very little talking other than words that could be interpreted as comforting and supportive. Supportive in the sense of reassuring them that you understood, that they have the answers to all their own questions. What they are seeking is validation from an outside source. And we all do that, don't we? We seek validation until we understand that validation springing from within is only validation we ever truly needed. All this is carefully wrapped in gentleness. I watch older people exercise in the morning. And sometimes it's quite rigorous. They're shaking or wiggling parts of their body, probably because there's pain there. But there's an old folklore of understanding that snapping and really abrasive movement, rapid, repetitive, will bring relief to the source of pain. And right next to them, there'll be a group practicing Tai Chi. And it's the gentleness of Tai Chi. It's the smoothness of motion. There's no jerking. There's no abruptness. There's no quick movements. Everything is slow and flowing, just as the murmuring of the spring flows and accumulates in my pond of clarity. So to see two really different kinds of exercise. And because there's a folklore, it must be because it's such a common method of exercising by the elder to do these snapping, quick, abrupt, abrasive. It hurts my body just to even say these things. But I know that it's because there's pain. And it's a misunderstanding. It's part of the folklore, the same culture that produced this beautiful flowing Tai Chi. that is so in tune with expressing and utilizing the body energetically. And it accomplishes the same. It accomplishes what the abrupt, abrasive exercise is intended. When something hurts, you need to get it flowing. It's usually the accumulation of fluids and bloods in a particular area that result in pressure and pain. And it's through gentle manipulation. It's through gently massaging, gently exercising the area of accumulated fluids, so that once again the flow of life that's necessary for us will continue. And it was in this same metaphor of how to unblock accumulated fluids. It's not much different than the process that I went through in the search for clarity, in the search to accomplish stillness. I was doing snapping, abrasive, quick efforts to accomplish what was much more likely to be accomplished by doing the opposite. Gentleness, smooth, flowing. Murmuring. Murmuring for me is not only indistinct sounds that are not quite understandable as words. Murmurings are gentle urgings, gentle clues to solutions. And when you look within the polarity that I accepted for silence, the polarity of the silence, the eternal silence, was communication. And it's this gentle murmuring, this gentle communication, which is, of course, internalized. If you externalize, if you speak out murmurings, they only tend to confuse those around you. What'd you say? Pardon me? Excuse me? Yeah. So this internal murmuring is an endless resource. This murmuring, just as the spring continues to bubble up, to murmur out from the earth. This murmuring should be embraced and appreciated as the source of clarity. So for me, all this process, this lifelong, basically, search for clarity has only recently included the murmurs, to recognize the import of the murmurs as the source of clarity, the gentle sounds, the gentle communication of silence. Silence is not the absence of, as I spoke to over the last few segments. Silence should be complete unto itself. And as I mentioned, the seeds in the polarity. I recently saw a really good, albeit simple, illustration on Facebook that supported, gave evidence to what I've been alluding to, that the seed of the opposite is contained within the other. They were using the yin yang, and they broke it down to really simple polarities. The white of half of the circle, half of the whole. They called it good. The black of the other half that fits together so organically in the yin-yang symbol represented not good. I don't want to use the word evil because it's certainly not evil. The opposite of good is not necessarily evil. The opposite of good is perhaps better expressed as not good, or simply bad. How's that? Good and bad. And within the good of the white circle is that dot I've spoken to. The seed of bad is contained within good. Just as the little white dot is contained in the black, that good is a part of bad. Communication is a part of silence, just as silence is a part of communication. So it was good to see, and it was nice to see. And if I knew more about this process, if I was going to delve deeper into this process of presentation, I would include a shot, include a frame of this lifted from Facebook and put it here. But it doesn't seem that it's my fate to delve really deeply into the production aspects. I use a inadequate microphone, as my friend Matthew Lien points out, the master of sound, a soundsmith, to my wordsmith. But when I listen to these presentations, these sharings, when I listen to them, the sound is adequate. When he listens to them, he hears the cheapness of my microphone. But it's got me to today, which is the 99th episode. It's gotten me to here. And the end for my presentation is much closer than the beginnings. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out the importance of this 99 to me. It's my sacred 33 times 3. For me, the special. And I don't take the multiple 3s any farther than 99. part of me would like to see my physical body live to 99. As 99 for me is perfect number. 33 in my life was so significant. I was divorced. 66, I married again. It'd be nice to say that I passed on at 99. What's my chances of making it to 99? Well, time, as it always does, will certainly tell. So it's very significant that I end up with this gentleness. Gentleness as a source of solution to my search for clarity. I'm finally understanding what it is. I'm finally seeing and feeling and being the perfection that is clarity. It's self-contained. You can't add anything to the state of clarity. It's all-encompassing state. If you add anything to clear water, except more clear water, the murmuring coming from the source, anything with the exception of more clear water, clarity is no longer clear. Clarity contains a seed of communication. If you add more communication to clarity, you're changing the nature of clarity. It starts to morph towards its opposite, communication. So it's recognizing that stillness does not exclude communication. That indeed to be clear, to be clarity, it must contain that seed of communication. So this is where inquiry leads me. Let's look at that seed. That seed of communication. Through that seed of communication comes through silence. And remember, I'm remembering as I'm speaking to you that the polarity for clarity was doubt. So silence is the only path to clarity. Silence within itself contains communication. Clarity is doubt. If you add doubt to clarity, not communication. I got a little off track there. I got so wrapped up in the moment I got wrapped up in the moment because I'm internalizing this. And my internalization, unfortunately, is a step ahead of my externalization, of my sharing with you. So, clarity. You see, doubt is so elusive. Such an elusive element of clarity. But within clarity, by definition, is this seed of doubt. And the seed of doubt is questioning. Questioning is the process that will either lead you towards being doubtful, full of doubt, or away from doubt. Silence is necessary for clarity. Silence contains the seed of communication, which becomes a seed of doubt. And this is where clarity. I'm really sorry that I got ahead of myself. There's something going on here as disconnect. But doubt is about the lack of certainty, isn't it? Doubt means you're missing something. Clarity, on the other hand, has the seed of communication, but there's no adding to it. And again, my mind is swirling. I'm going to have to sit on these concepts and share them some more because I'm in the throes of this process. So today was an opportunity for me to sort it out. But my main message for today was to embrace gentleness, to surrender to the murmurs from within. To continue sorting in the most gentle